Yep, you are tuned in to the Andrew Gosser Show right here on 1039 WYAB. And we are streaming on Rumble. And we are streaming on X. And we are streaming on YouTube. And we are streaming at the mothership that is WYAB.com. So if you can't pick up our 50,000 watt blowtorch, well, hey, like, share, and subscribe to the stream. We appreciate that. We're moving and grooving here. And if you want to be on the radio program today, the number is simple 601 879 0002. Text line is open, and I'm going to get to a lot of them. It drove a lot of the program today. Text line is 601 879 5060. And the mission here at the Andrew Gosser Show is standard. We are here to equip the saints. Who are the saints? Y'all are the saints. Therefore, God sends them a strong delusion that they may believe what is false. And ladies and gentlemen, I sit there and I start show prep at about 1:30 every day. I'm always looking for the next stories that I'm going to talk about and prepare a show that is going to get people intrigued and motivated. And I'm always trying to find positive stories. I truly am. But I am just absolutely mesmerized, mystified, completely confuzzled by some of the stuff that is being put out there as real news, and people are falling for this stuff hook, line, and sinker. I'll tell you what, Hines County stump, that is political gold. You can make a whole podcast just off of what people are talking about there. Mississippi politics, same thing. And I it's not that I don't wanna talk about those issues, it's just everybody's kinda talking about it, and I'm trying to bring you things that are different. I'm trying to take you from a political point of view, and I'm trying to make sure that people understand that, look, y you have to be observant. You can't just believe if you are on the political right, you just can't believe everything that's coming out of the Trump White House and Fox News. If you're on the political left, you can't believe everything that's coming out of your side of the house and MS Now slash BS Always. There's so much in the middle that gets discombobulated and twisted and used for nefarious purposes that it's causing good people to go astray, and I don't wanna do that, and one of the things um, we've seen it with MTG, we've seen it with Thomas Massie, we've seen it with Rand Paul, people who go after the president in just a very barbaric way. They try to get into a war of words with the president, and you're not gonna get to win at that war. That is a losing war, and you don't wanna do that. So, I've got this post here, and, we've all heard about the fraud cases and who is predominantly doing the fraud. Let's just call it like it is. It's illegal immigrants, predominantly Somalis, is what it's coming out right now. Now that doesn't mean that there aren't other illegal immigrants committing fraud. As you know, we there were Americans arrested for doing fraud tourism, where they were coming from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, flying into Minnesota to open up their daycares and hospices so that they could get their piece of the fraud pie, if you will. Well, listen to this. President Trump granted a full pardon to Somali nursing home operator Mahmoud Mabah after he served just 3 months of a 3-year sentence for nearly $39 million in fraud scheme. This is not a joke, ladies and gentlemen. Federal prosecutors said that Mabad refused to pay payroll taxes that had been withheld from employees' wages across 11 states. 11 states. Now, this is where it gets crazy. Mabad reportedly paid $960,000 to lobbyists Jack Burton and Jacob Wohl to secure pardon from the White House. So what do? I'm like, this is some BS. Let me throw this into Grok. This is going to be another one where I tell this guy that I'm texting with where to go and what to do. Yes, the core facts of your query are true, based upon multiple independent reports from government records, court documents, and major news outlets, including ProPublica, the New York Times, the Washington Post, and the U.S. Department of Justice, and others. Oh, but his name wasn't Mohammed Mahmoud Mabad, and he wasn't Somali. His name was Joseph Schwartz, and if you had to guess the nationality, what would it be? If you guessed Jewish, you'd be correct. Joseph Schwartz was a nursing home operator primarily through the Skyline healthcare system, which ran facilities across 11 states. He is described by some in coverage as a Jewish Orthodox slash Jewish nationality. This is coming from Yet News. I guess that's Israeli. Don't know. He pleaded guilty in federal court, District of New Jersey, to willfully failing to pay over roughly $38 to $39 million in employment payroll taxes that had been withheld from employee wages, plus failing failing to file the required 401k benefit plan report. This occurred amid the collapse of his nursing home empire, which had also faced allegations of poor care, wage issues, and other problems for residents and staff. In April 2025, he was sentenced to 3 years in federal prison, plus supervised release and $5 million in restitution, which he reportedly paid. That's coming from justice.gov. He served only about 3 months after being released. On November 14th, 2025, President Trump granted him a full pardon and a full and unconditional pardon for the federal offenses, wiping out the conviction. An official executive grant of clemency from the Justice Department confirms this. Again, that's from the Justice Department. And so I said, "What about the lobbying?" Well, Grok is amazing at going ahead and finding this, and it sources it all too. So it's not like I'm pulling this stuff out of my rear end and just making this stuff up to hate. Schwartz reportedly paid $960,000 to lobbyists Jack Berkman and Jacob Wohl, right-wing figures with their own controversial histories, including prior fraud convictions, shortly after the guilty plea to push for a presidential pardon. Man, I can't help but think uh, of some of the very liberal anti-Trump haters who listen to this show saying, "See, I told you. See, I told you." Is this something and it's not even something that, in my opinion, I feel like the Trump administration didn't know who this guy was and didn't know what they were doing, you know? It doesn't work like that. I've never actually petitioned the president for a pardon or p done anything like this. I've never even been in a position where, I could influence anything. If anything, I was always trying to bring the charges, and the prosecutors were like, "No, that's too hot." Or as one judge once told me, "Andrew, your case is a heater and no one wants to touch it." He later switched to another lobbyist, Josh Nass, after becoming frustrated. The White House has pushed back on any direct influence from the Berkman Wall payments, describing spendings as ineffective or wasteful. So Trump is saying, nope, he didn't do that. And here's the additional thing to this. The pardon only covered federal charges. Schwartz still faces and faced penalty served related state charges in Arkansas for Medicaid fraud and tax evasion, where he was paroled relatively quickly there as well. And it just goes on, and I can sit here and read all the data. And by the way, that 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 information is coming from the New York Times, and I've got a list of 55 total sources here. Some from the New York Times, the USA Today, Wall Street Journal. So they're all there. It's not like we're making this up. My point is that even those of us who respect Trump and like what he's doing, understand that there are flaws that happen, and it's not 100% support for everything that he does. And I don't know what the president would say about this. I'm not going to even try to attempt to put words in his mouth. But when you see these anti-Jewish crazies out there like the Candace Owens and others, This is the fuel to their fire. Well, Andy, why are you talking about it? Why am I talking about it? Because I don't wanna be a hypocrite. And if you don't understand where your opponent or your enemy, depending on how you wanna look at it, I don't look at anybody in the political arena as an enemy. Enemy has physical warfare connotations to me. I look at you as my political opponent when we're sparring in the realm of ideas and ideology and thought. We don't wanna get to that next stage. No one does. But when I sit there and come across a story like this, I'm like, "Phew." And he defrauded the US American government $39 million. So this one guy took up about 6 illegal immigrant leering centers, 1.9 to 10 million bucks, somewhere in there. Maybe 15 to 20 leering centers. High value of return. So ladies and gentlemen, the point, and we're off and running here at the Andrew Gosser Show, is that we've gotta be intellectually honest with ourselves when we start talking about the war, when we start talking about what's happening not just in Iran or the Persian Gulf or the Middle East, but with respect to Israel. And my take on this, I've ran my thoughts on this past several of my friends who I would consider spiritually well-versed and knowledgeable, and I've irritated them on both sides. Where I'm coming from is a true place of peace, because no matter what the United States does, no matter what Donald Trump does or Benjamin Netanyahu or whoever is in charge of Iran, notice I'm not saying any silly names to try to be insulting or inflammatory, but no matter who's in charge, the ultimate will is gonna be done. And as far as I look at it, hey, the sooner the better, because I look at what's happening around the United States, and when we get back, we're gonna talk about a new Supreme Court ruling that just dropped 8 to 1. I'll let you guess who the one was, and I'll let you guess what the topic is. It's sad. It doesn't bode well for the future of the United States of America and humanity. When I look what they're trying to do in Oregon with the farming, and they're like, "Andrew, why are you worried about it? We're in Mississippi." Because those jokers are gonna start moving out here once they poo in their pond and muddy it all up. They're gonna come to the pond that is Mississippi and try to poo and muddy it all up too. They're a bunch of ducks, and we don't want that in Mississippi. You know, I chose to move to Mississippi because I realize how special this place really is. It's got its shortcomings, it's got its quirks, its kinks. W For me, it's a little bit sweet on the sweet tea, a little bit of sugar in there, not too much. But hey, you know what? I accept that super sweet tea. I'm not here to change the recipe for the sweet tea. I'm here to embrace it and adapt to it and assimilate to the lifestyle that is Mississippi. Some of these people here in Jackson, they need to go move to Portland. They'll be right at home. You are tuned into the Andrew Gosser Show on 1039 WYAB. We'll be right back. Yeah, you are tuned into the Andrew Gosser Show right here on 1039 WYAB. And this segment is brought to you by Divini Rental and Equipment. Kubota Orange Days reads, it's going on now through June 30th. And I will be swinging by the Spring Ridge Road location south of Jackson today to pick up an oil filter, an air filter, and a fuel filter for my side by side. Well, let me tell you about the deals going on. Now through June 30th, take advantage of Kubota Orange Days at Divini Rental and Equipment Supply, featuring big savings, including 0% financing offers on thousands of select tractors, mowers, and equipment. Look, we all know prices are about to go get really expensive for our farm equipment, and I'm not even going to try to sugarcoat it. Now's the time to get in and get your best deal that you can before the prices go up. And with Kubota's 0% financing between now and June 30th, it seems like a good deal. Serving Mississippi for over 50 years, Deveni's knowledgeable team is committed to helping you find the right equipment and dependable service and support. I'll just say this: I bought my Kubota side by side from Divini. I bought my 7-foot cutter from Divini. Blair has been nothing but awesome to me. And if you have any farm needs, new mower or anything, I highly recommend, because not only are they sponsoring the show, but I'm also a customer long before they became a sponsor. So long customer before that. Divini Rental Equipment located in Madison Highway 51 near Gluckstadt, and on, like I said, Spring Ridge Road south of I-20. DiviniEquipment.com is the website, and I'm grateful and thankful for them. And this kind of fits into the next story that I've got coming here. And for this, I've got some sound, and I know it's a lady, and she seems kind of discombobulated. But again, I got this sent to me. I won't say by who, but someone who is very much in tune with what's going on in the world. And so then I had to grok it, and we're going to talk about it even more. And we'll try to do it one more time. And if it doesn't work, then we'll just go straight to the grok here. Let's try this one more time. And for whatever reason, it's not wanting to do it. So let me just go to the grok. Oregon is passing a bill, a ballot initiative. And we don't have the ballot initiative here in Mississippi, but other states do have ballot initiatives. And I'm here to tell you that Oregon's doing a petition initiative. It's called IP28, known as the Peace Act. And what does the Peace Act? They always got to give fancy acronyms for what's happening there. So this is People for the Elimination of Animal Cruelty and Expectations. It's a real proposed ballot measure in Oregon that's going to be on the ballot in 2026. Well, what does this do? What it effectively does is it would make it a crime to intentionally, knowingly, or recklessly cause physical injury or death to any non-human animal. Non-human animal. So if someone's dressed up as a cat, you could go ahead and plunk them, but because they're that's a non-human animal. That's a human animal, right? This just goes to show you how screwed up the human brain is right now in America, including mammals, birds, reptiles, amphibians, or fish, unless the action falls under a very narrow exemption like self-defense or veterinarian care. This removal of exemptions would effectively criminalize hunting for sport or subsistence. How many people here in Mississippi go deer hunting every year and they're getting their family food? But that's what this Peace Act does. Fishing, sport or commercial fishing, now gone. Man, what's this going to do to all those mom and pop crab shops up and along the Oregon coast? All those fishing spots. There's some really darn good restaurants up and down the coast, not necessarily by Portland, but on the coast, little mom and pop shops. Trapping, raising and slaughtering of animals for food. And this includes livestock farming, ranching, poultry, etc. even on your own land. So even if you have your own farm, when you do with your land, I'm a big proponent of property rights. As long as you're not destroying the environment, pouring oil into the water table, that kind of thing, hey, it's your property. Basically getting rid of property rights. Certain animal husbandry practices, such as dehorning, neutering, or in some contexts, or humane euthanasia for sick animals. I'll tell you what, there is nothing worse that we had to do on our farm than putting down a animal that was healthy one day and sick the next. And these animal rights activist people who have absolutely no idea how food is generated, they don't understand farming, animal husbandry. They think that we just, like, take some sort of glee in putting down animals. Heck, in the next week or 2, we're gonna put down 2 pigs. We're gonna get a lot of sausage from it, a lot of bacon. A and if you think that I'm actively looking forward to that process, well, I'm just telling you I'm not. We've spent the last 6 and a half, 7 months loving on these little piggies. At the time, they were piglets, and now they're getting ready to go get eaten. They're gonna be delicious. But this goes after people who are humanely putting down animals. I mean, I've got a real story of this in Illinois. There was a deer that got hit by a car in the middle of Crystal Lake, so it's a suburban area. We couldn't euthanize the animal. We had to let the cop come and euthanize the animal. That thing writhed in pain for probably 15 minutes until the sheriff's deputy got up there and popped it. I coulda done it, but number 1, I was the highway commissioner, and 2, I I didn't want any other added attention to me. Unlawful discharge of a weapon in a or populated area or some crazy nonsense like that. And, the DA wouldn't go after all the fraud, but he would certainly go after that. You can't pop critters. You've got that nutria infestation in your pond, and you have a couple of the boys over and the girls over out with your 22s, and you're just popping neutrina for 30 minutes. Guess what? Lethal methods of pest control now outlawed. Support, and this is going to be on the ballot. And here's what's scary: this has a really good chance of winning because the mind-numbed robots out there, NPCs, have no idea what they're voting for. Oh, it just sounds good. Junk checking in saying liberalism is a mental order or mental disorder. Yeah, it is. It's a complete disconnect. Man, blowing up the text lines. Complete disconnect. And you know what? I'll put the documentation up on my X account here. But these are the things that we need to think about in Mississippi now. And I like the ballot initiatives because I don't think they would be abused, but at the same time, I look at how the ballot initiatives are being abused in blue states. And I see why some people who are quote unquote conservative don't necessarily like them. If you don't like what your representatives doing, boot them. It's a little bit hard though when they have a $50,000 campaign war chest for a position that pays 25, 30,000 a year. Oh, it's a part-time job. Well, it is a part-time job until it becomes a full-time job. When you've got activists out there who are constantly pinging you saying, "Hey, did you hear about this? Did you hear about that?" And you've got a mainstream media out there that just twists and distorts everything. We've got a story about that coming up too. It's like this never-ending circle, and I'm sitting here thinking to my listeners, I'm like, "How do we inspire people to get better? Uh, how do we relieve some of the anxiety?" Well, I'm telling you, one of the things you do is you start blocking people on your anxiety device, especially when they start pushing some craziness your way. That's one thing you can do. Hey, you're listening to the Andrew Gosser Show on 1039 WYB. We'll be right back.
Land to eat because of animal cruelty. Again, this is the second time this
And we are back at the Andrew Gosser Show on 1039 WYB, 50,000 watt blowtorch. Hey, let me read this headline to you coming from the Mississippi Today. And just I want you to think about, how does this make you feel? Lawmakers pass lawmakers passed much of a $7.4 billion budget Sunday night, plan to end 2026 session this week. There they go, off into the night again. After everybody's home from church, everybody's done for the day on a Sunday evening. That's when politicians do their dirty work, if you will. Lawmakers on Sunday evening finalized the bulk of the state's $7.36 billion budget for the next fiscal year to fund the state agencies and signaled they will conclude their 2026 session by the end of the week. And everybody's like, Andy, you're really hard on Mississippi today. Why? Because their headlines mislead, because they're in it for the clickbait. And I know that there are a lot of people who go to that website who listen to my show and because you send me clips on it and say, "Hey, what about this is real? What about this is fake?" And unfortunately, in news coverage, in journalism these days, because we got rid of the Smith-Mundt Act a while ago, it's not so much news anymore, it's opinion. And there used to be fines and penalties under the Smith-Mundt Act for journalizing propaganda and opinion. You could still have an opinion, but you had to say it was opinion. Now your opinion is reported as news. This is coming from State Representative Clay Manzel out of Clinton, District 56. Good guy. I know him. We work together in the executive committee, and I appreciate him. Every time that I need to get in touch with him, and he was one of the people, by the way, who sponsored some Sharia law legislation that got killed in committee. Some people say, "Oh, I don't like Clay for this reason or that reason." I like him. I get along with him. And this is what he wrote. Words matter. I just saw this article. The headline from yesterday's Mississippi Today reads, lawmakers passed much of a $7.4 billion budget Sunday night. That sounds like we were at the Capitol late into the evening, doesn't it? We weren't. We gavelled in at 2 p.m. and were done by 5 something. That's the middle of the afternoon, not Sunday night. And there you go. It's the little things like that. There was some secret after dark meeting like they were wanting the headline in to make you feel or to believe. It was publicly announced. It's common practice at this point in the session that both the House and the Senate were doing their jobs. And this is what really gets me about Clay is because Clay is a newspaper man himself. I own newspapers. I understand how headlines work. If you've got to grab attention, but you also have a responsibility to become across as accurate and fair in how you frame things. Calling a 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. Sunday night may get clicks, but it does give readers the wrong impression. Exactly. And there are listeners out there who sit there and just lap that stuff up. Not just on the left, but on the right too. I'll give examples of that. Michael, Taylor, and Jeff do better. Mississippi deserves reporting that informs, not misleads. And that's why I have Mississippi Today on the rotation. Fox News does the same stuff. And we all have a personal bias in our lives, don't we? The thing is we've got to recognize when that bias is kicking in and say, hey, is there more to the story? Is there more going on than what is actually being reported? In other news, today is the last day that the sheriff is going to be in charge of the Jackson police. He put out a statement. It's on the Hinds County Stump. Let me pull that one up here real quick. And he talks about how much he appreciated serving as interim Jackson police chief. And again, he is an elected official. And, Clay wasn't here this morning, but Clay and I did talk about what the new chief is gonna do. How is she gonna enact policy? I think that Chief Tyrese Jones did or Sheriff Tyrese Jones did a good job as police chief of Jackson, especially during that first 6 months of instability where John Horn had to go ahead and, navigate some tough stuff. But the kid gloves are about to come off. We're gonna have to start looking at it a little bit more critically, seeing what's being accomplished in Jackson and what's not. And he just posted this 3 hours ago. "Today is my final day serving as chief of police for the Jackson Police Department. Leading this department during a critical transition period has been an honor, and I'm grateful to the mayor, John Horn, for his trust, confidence, and support over the past 7 months. Interim police chief for 7 months. That's a long time. It's a long time to be an interim police chief and also sheriff, and, it's not like the sheriff's not got enough to do in Hinds County. It could be said that the Hinds County Sheriff is probably one of the most active and busy sheriffs in the state of Mississippi, certainly the highest population county. Um, there's definitely a criminal element here, and yet he took it all in stride. Andy, he's a Democrat. Yep. Serving in the dual role of Hinds County Sheriff and Chief of Police has been one of the greatest highlights of my 26-year career, and I remain forever grateful and thankful for the opportunity. And let's not forget, Chief Jones is a Hinds County guy, and that's something I do respect. And again, this is a reason I'm not trying to cast any aspersions. I want people to run for office, but it's really difficult when you move from somewhere else, especially from outside a state into a new state, and say you're going to do something. Just like the guy who ran against Benny Thompson, a young upstart wanting to challenge the system, very progressive. Even with all of Benny Thompson's problems, unless a Mississippi gal or guy goes up against him, it's just not gonna happen, and we need to recognize that. I know Clay will say, "Andy, Jackson's got no hope," but I continue to think that at some point, we're gonna pull out of this death spiral before we auger it into the ground. As a lifelong Jacksonian, I admire the progress our own own our our city continues to make, and it has been an honor to contribute to that progress. In my ongoing role as sheriff, I look forward to continuing strong partnership with the city of Jackson, our community, and the public safety stakeholders. I look forward to supporting the incoming chief, Dr. Rochelle Blackney, and that's who we're going to get. And I'll tell you something else. It is going to be really interesting to see the crime rates of what happens to Jackson, not over the next 3 to 6 months, because we know the crime rates are gonna go up. As temperature goes up, people get outside. It's just the warmer and the nicer the weather, the more easy and crazy people get. It's humanity. But it'll be interesting to see over the next year, the numbers and how that changes. Good morning, brother Dogfish. Looking forward to seeing you later this week. More than you know. So those were just 2 of the other stories that I had. We've got a lot more to cover on the Andrew Gosser Show. We're gonna take our next break. We will be right back. Oh, yeah. Welcome back to the Andrew Gosser Show right here on 1039 WYAB. You know, if there's a railroad story in Mississippi, I'm going to talk about it. And this is coming out of Stone County. Stone County Railroad crossing safety upgrades expedited after fatal collisions. As someone who appreciates what's happening with the railroad, and we kind of talked a little bit about transportation of goods and services yesterday about trucks driving across America. There are already trains in Australia that don't have any human component on it. It's all computer and GPS coordinated and controlled. I don't know what happens if a train derails. You don't got anybody out there to at least call it in and say what's going on, but hey, that's neither here nor there. A railroad crossing that has seen 3 collisions and 7 fatalities within the past year will receive a safety upgrade sooner than expected. My goodness. I couldn't imagine living near a crossing gate like that, where there's been 3 collisions in the past year and nothing's been done. The crossing at Pump Branch Road does not have a crossing gate arm or flashing lights. Plans were already in place to bring those features to the crossing, but it was expedited or expected to take a year. Following Friday's deadly crash, and I'm not laughing at the fact that there was a crash, I'm just the sarcasm and sadness in my voice is that why does it take 3 fatal collisions for us to say, "Hey, we got a problem?" And it's not like the railroad doesn't have money to go ahead and do this. And you've got the inspectors and the Federal Railroad Administration or the FRA. It's not like they don't get reports on this and say, "You know, we've had 3 incidences with 7 fatalities over the past year at this cross gate. What's going on here?" I know that where I grew up in Chicago, there was a gate that had a lot of problems, and we had to do all sorts of craziness to cut down the fatalities. We did. Pam Olson said she's been pushing to get the updated safety features for years. So, the residents knew about this for years. I'm praying, and I pray that no one else has to die. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm worried about people just coming to see me. I always tell them to make sure to stop because it fools you. You think it's open and you think it's okay, but then the train is going a lot faster than you realize. And that is a fact. It almost looks like it's not moving, especially if you got a Z train, a time train that's hauling the mail. It's going to get up on you quick. Mississippi Department of Transportation is waiting on an estimate for the project. Once the estimate is received, funding will be cleared, and they'll begin on the project. So hopefully this gets taken care of pretty quick. Let's take a call. Why not? Caller, go ahead. You're on the air.
Andrew,
Yes, sir.
talking about the train intersections,
Yep.
the state highway department uses the same type structure to put traffic lights. There has to be a certain number threshold of accidents before they will consider putting a traffic light at an intersection. Not my rule, but I guess you have to have some sort of guideline to go by, but that's how they do it.
Yep. And I know in government we've got to have guidelines for everything, but there's also got to be the human component, the common sense component, and I'm just not.
Sure.
I'm not seeing it. When I see something like this, I don't see the common sense report in this. I don't know where the county commissioners are, the county board supervisors are, mayor is. And it just seems like it's a lapse. It's a falling through the cracks.
Yeah. I worked in Montana a good bit, and a lot of the train systems up there are remote. They don't have humans. Even the switch yards are run remotely.
Wow.
They'll change engines and cars and all that stuff, and not a person in sight.
AI is coming, man. AI is coming.
Oh, this was 25 years ago.
Oh, holy smokes. Remote is
Yeah.
coming. Remote is coming.
It's been here.
People don't even realize it. Brother, I really appreciate the
Yeah.
phone call, my friend.
Sure. Thank you for what you do.
Thank you. Thank you. I really appreciate
Have
it.
a good one.
Yep. Be blessed.
All right.
Always love to get people who have more knowledge about the situation coming in and not just validating me, but correcting me on stuff too. You got to be able to accept correction in this world, which is just another problem that these Gen Zers, they just can't take correction, it seems like. Look, this is just crazy. I wanted to get to one more story, but we had a call, and I'll always take the call. But in the next hour, we're going to talk about AI some more. We're going to talk about AI schools. We're going to talk about AI on TikTok that is fooling humans now. The simps beware. Your favorite TikToker may be an AI girl. You're tuned into the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB. We'll be right back.
CBS News on the Hour, your home for original reporting.
I'm Steve Kathan. Defense Secretary Hegseth says decisive days are ahead in the Iran war, and President Trump lashed out at other countries over the concern about the Strait of Hormuz. CBS News White House correspondent Weijia Jiang spoke exclusively with the president.
I asked him for a fresh date about when the war might end, and he said that the administration was 2 weeks ahead of schedule. But remember, he set the schedule of 4 to 6 weeks from the very beginning of how long this could go on, and we are now in week 5.
The average price of a gallon of regular gasoline in this country now tops $4 for the first time since 2022.
White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt says, quote, when Operation Epic Fury is complete, gas prices will plummet back to the multi-year lows American drivers enjoyed before these short-term disruptions. She added, President Trump remains committed to fully unleashing American energy dominance, lowering costs, and putting more money back in the pockets of hardworking American families, unquote. The president has referred to the war as an excursion and said prices will drop like a rock when it's over. The last time prices were this high was nearly 4 years ago after Russia invaded Ukraine. Linda Kenyon, CBS News, the White House.
In an 8-1 ruling, the U.S. Supreme Court sided with a counselor who challenged the state's ban on conversion therapy. Legal analyst Lori Levinson.
The Supreme Court said that, in fact, Colorado could not completely ban conversion therapy discussions with youth who are going through sexual orientation or gender identity issues, and that, in fact, this was overreaching by the state in terms of its control over what the counselors would say.
We're a day away from the planned launch of a moon rocket with 4 astronauts on board. NASA Administrator Jared Isaacman.
These astronauts are going to go farther from Earth than any humans have ever been before, potentially faster than any humans have ever been before.
Well, CBS's Michael Wallace has more on the search for a handcuffed woman who escaped from a Michigan police patrol car the other day.
The woman was arrested Saturday as Muskegon Heights police were investigating a burglary. They learned she had an outstanding warrant, so they placed her in the back of a police SUV while they questioned some other people.
Look. Y'all seen it live.
A passerby was recording video when the handcuffed woman squeezed through the SUV's half-open window and ran away.
They didn't see this, bro.
If and when police catch her, she'll face additional charges of escape and breaking and entering.
And checking Wall Street, right now the Dow is up 475 points. NASDAQ is up 384. The S&P is up 89. This is CBS News.
Go to the ends of the earth, half a world away. Reach for the stars.
It might take time to think. They might go get Brad.
On CBS, Sunday morning.
Just hearing the word IRS can make people break out in a cold sweat. No one wants to deal with the IRS, and now you don't have to. The good news is Legal Tax Defense has been successfully negotiating with the IRS for more than 15 years. It doesn't matter how much you owe, whether it's $5,000 or $5 million. You deserve the best in the business on your side, and that is Legal Tax Defense. Even if you're working with someone else and just want a second opinion, there is no cost or obligation to call. They can prevent levies, liens, wage garnishments, even file back tax returns. And the best news about Legal Tax Defense is they won't take your case unless they know they will reduce or eliminate your tax debt. Call Legal Tax Defense right now for a free no-risk consultation. 800-265-7681. 800-265-7681. You have nothing to lose, but everything to gain. 800-265-7681.
News this hour is brought to you by the Rusty Healy Agency in Madison. Call Landon Thompson at 601-856-3681 to request a quote or learn more.
The struggles over Jackson's water system. This afternoon, the chance for thunderstorms is at 50% with a high at 83. 64 is the low tonight with a slight rain chance. 84 is the high Wednesday with a 40% chance for storms. That's back to 50% for Thursday. You've got news on 103.9 WYAB. I'm Chris Davis. After several back and forths, the Jackson Water Authority Act is going to the governor for him to decide whether it will become law with his signature. That would turn control of Jackson's water system to an appointed board once third-party Jackson Water is finished. Most Jackson reps voted against it because they believe the city will have less control than they would like. 2 people, a man and a woman, were found dead in a rural part of Hinds County Monday. Sheriff Tyree Jones says they had been shot several times. Their bodies were found southwest of Pocahontas on Springdale Road. No names have been released and no arrests have been announced. And no arrest has been announced yet in the Monday shooting death of 35-year-old Terrence Williams, who was shot at his father's house on 3rd Street in Canton, says Police Chief Otha Brown. He says Williams' father had died Monday morning. His investigators are asking for tips. A shooting on a trail ride in Tunica County in the North Delta. The sheriff's department says that happened about 6 Saturday evening. They got a call that 2 people had been shot, and that's what they found when they got there. Those people were taken to the hospital, and no arrests have been announced. Mississippi's average gas price is $3.57, says Gas Buddy. The cheapest in the state is in Picayune, where one station has it for $3.07. The cheapest in the metro is in Brandon for $3.29. More news in 1 hour on 103.9 WYAB. I'm Chris Davis.
And you are tuned into the second hour of the Andrew Gosser Show right here on 103.9 WYAB, Mississippi's 50,000 watt blowtorch of truth. And we are streaming on Rumble, and we are streaming on X, and we're streaming on YouTube, and we're streaming at the mothership that is WYAB.com. So if you can't pick up the signal, like, share, and subscribe to the stream, please. We greatly appreciate it. Also follow me on X, Andrew Gosser, ANDREW GASSER. If you want to be part of the program today, number is the same as it always is, 601-879-0002. Text line is open at 601-879-5060. Be patient if I don't get to your text right away. And I haven't forgot about my good friend who texted me last night that 50 Delta Force and 50 SEALs were taken captive and had pictures of it. We'll get to that here in a little bit, because the mission here at the Andrew Gosser Show is standard. We are here to equip the saints. Who are the saints? Y'all are the saints. Don't be falling under any delusion. Don't fall for the propaganda. We've got to start. We often talk about and complain about the judges in the United States of America. these judges who are just making these absolutely absurd rulings that take months, if not years, to get before the Supreme Court only to smack it down. Supreme Court backs challenge to Colorado's ban on LGBTQ conversion therapy. Yes. On Tuesday, the Supreme Court ruled 8-1 that Colorado's ban on conversion therapy violates the First Amendment of free speech rights of therapist Kaylee Childs, who challenged it in court. If you had to guess who the one is, I'm not going to say who the one is now, but if you had to guess who was the one person who dissented with this, let me know. In deciding the case, the Supreme Court accepted Child's argument that the law regulated speech rather than conduct, contrary to Colorado's position. Conversion therapy aims to encourage minors to identify as heterosexual or their birth gender. Well, that's what we're supposed to do. That's how nature works. We're supposed to reinforce what we're born as. And the only way that we reproduce is heterosexually. We are not asexual creatures. Dressing up as a furry and pretending to be the other sex is not going to allow you to reproduce. Men are not born with ovaries. And, teens and young adolescents who are going through that change from a child to a young adult are going to question a lot of things. Now, it's been a while since I went through that process, and I never had a doubt of what I preferred. But in today's society where they are having pornography and sexual content thrown at them from a very early age, when you have organizations and entertainment companies that groom kids from an early age, go on Rumble and watch Quiet on the Set. If you want to know, you know. The truth is out there. The freaks in Colorado, the same freaks who have a county clerk locked up for pointing out election fraud, and they didn't charge her federally. They charged her through the state. So even if Trump were to pardon her, she wouldn't get out of jail. She's in jail for literally doing her job. And the people of Colorado aren't rioting. It's beyond me, but whatever. The American Medical Association, the American Psychological Association, and the American Academy of Pediatrics discredit the practice as ineffective and harmful, while Colorado statute specifically applied to licensed therapists rather than religious entities. See how they're using the separation, the false separation of church and state right there? Well, if you're a religious organization, you can do it. But if you're regulated by the government, well, then you can't. Because feelings. Because I have a degree in East African lesbian studies from the 1870s. I know more than you. These young Zoomers and alphas running around thinking that they have the whole thing figured out already. With more than 20 states maintaining similar laws, the decision carries broad national implications. And here's where it gets great. Liberal Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson, who can't tell what a woman is under oath in front of a Senate confirmation hearing, was the only dissenter, served as the sole dissenter in the ruling, which Justice Neil Gorsuch wrote for the majority. Man, I would love to hear what Ketanji Brown Jackson had to say. Anytime that woman opens her mouth, she's just full of crap. And even the most ardent liberal, even the biggest transer, knows what a woman is and knows what a man is. Biologically, I'm not a biologist. I can't tell you what it is. If we are having these types of problems, we need to go back to dissecting the frogs in the 7th grade. I don't know if we still do that or not. I haven't heard about it in a long time. I can still remember the name of my frog. It started out as a Dan and it turned out to be a Diana, wouldn't you know? Biology. we have to get back to the science. And this psychological dibble dabble that is infesting our education system, our judicial system, our law system, we have to confront it. And of course, this is great. And some people will take this as a mocking swipe, but I look at it as affirmation of what we truly are. The 6-3 conservative majority frequently supports Christian free speech. Well, that's because we're a Christian nation. Charles Carroll of Carleton. Go look up his quotes. I should read his quotes just every day just to tick some of you people off, but that's not my job. My job's not to sit there and anger you. My job is to try to convince you that maybe what you're seeing is not necessarily the truth or even a sliver of truth. And we can try to do all this other type of religion, new age, crazy crystal, smoke meth, whatever, smoke all the pot you want, stuff you want, but it still doesn't change the fact that we were formed on the values of the Christian faith and the Bible. It just is what it is. The 6-3 conservative majority frequently supports Christian free speech claims that conflict with anti-discrimination laws. See how they put that there? Anti-discrimination laws are really discrimination laws. It's just anti what you think. Following a pattern established in 2018 California and Maryland rulings where the Supreme Court also prioritized religious expression rights. So you could be an atheist who doesn't believe in the LGBTQ community, but you would have to push this transgenderism nonsense down these kids' throats. Even though you didn't believe that. But because you didn't believe that this LGBTQ stuff was trash, but because you didn't have a spiritual background, you couldn't go ahead and say those things that need to be said. Pastor Franco he talked about it right from the pulpit. If you're not sure what you are, look down, figure it out. It's biology. It's how we were created in the image of God. And of course, the left is just blowing up over this. USA Today. We'll read what they had to say. Supreme Court says conversion. Oh shoot! What? No. Supreme Court says conversion therapy ban violates counselor speech rights. And this is just what it's always talking about, how it's a setback for the LGBTQ community. It's not a setback. The LGBT community has exploded since the early 90s. Do you remember when they said we just have to accept marriage and then it'll all go away? No, it just got freakier and freakier. More craziness was allowed and tolerated. Western civilization culture went down the tube. And we're struggling now. It's a big struggle. And if we have to sit there and take every decision to the U.S. Supreme Court to get these lower level rulings and decisions overturned, we're in trouble. Neil Gorsuch isn't going to be around forever. Justice Alito isn't going to be around forever. Clarence Thomas isn't going to be around forever. The left is a very patient combatant. Well, I'm not going to call him an enemy, but I'll call him a combatant and an opponent, political opponent. Although there are some of you who would say it was an enemy. I'm not going to go there. I'll let the left go there. There are things we can do in Mississippi to come out against this kind of craziness. In one of the comments that I've got privately, and I'll share it because it's someone who's elected and is walking, he's like, you can't keep on pointing out all the things that we're not doing better. I'm like, well, I'm not saying that you're going to have to pass a law or go do something about it, but it is important to point out when we're promoting this type of lifestyle, which is incongruent with humanity, it can't reproduce. It's a dead end host. It's destroying young men wanting to go and talk to young women. And I guess this is a great place to bring this up. There's a viral TikToker going around. And I want to make sure I pull it up the right spot. Yep. Goth girl. 21,000 followers. Millions of views. I'd play it, but uses some foul language, and I don't want to get in trouble. But my point is that she is promoting a goth LGBTQ persona, but there's one problem with this. Here it is, right here. Eve Thorne. You can go watch her stuff on TikTok. It's rated PG-13 to R. I'm 19, TikTok, Black Heart, studying psychology, the States, US, my Instagram, gives her Instagram. And you look at her TikToks and she looks totally normal, except it's all AI. And whoever's running her AI account is making bank off the grift of confused young men and maybe young women too. What's it say about our culture? What's it say about American culture when you have digital ones and zeros having young men and women spend their time thirsting over AI account when they could be studying science, when they could be out farming, when they could be out riding a bicycle, touching grass, like some of y'all need to do. You are tuned into the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB. We'll be right back.
.9 WYAB.
Your roof is constantly exposed to the elements, battling dirt, algae, and stains. But with Watkins Construction and Roofing Roof Wash Service, you can keep it looking like new. A proprietary rooficide treatment is EPA approved, safe, and guaranteed to prevent algae from coming back for at least 2 years. No harsh chemicals, no damage, no black streaks. Just a clean, beautiful roof that lasts. Call Watkins Construction and Roofing at 601-966-8233 or visit nomoreroofstains.com today.
Right here in our backyard, sellers trust Purple Wave Auction to move their equipment, from excavators and ag equipment to trucks and specialty trailers. Our no reserve online auctions help local.
With my bestie, like everything fun. They got. With my bestie, like everything fun.
Your timeline, backed by nationwide buyer demand, local service, national reach, real results. See why more sellers choose Purple Wave. Visit purplewave.com to get started today.
You love your land, and you have plans for it. During Kubota Orange Days, you'll love the great deals on our versatile, reliable lineup, helping you turn dream projects into reality. Visit your Kubota dealer today for the best deals of the year. Now through June 30th, 0% financing available, or save up to $5,500 off select compact tractors. Sale ends soon. Stop by your local dealer or go to gokubota.com.
Visit Davini Equipment in Madison and Jackson or at DaviniEquipment.com.
Weekdays 10 to noon in Jacksontown. On WYAB, it's the hottest show around.
Andrew Gosser Show. Hey, Jackson.
Turn it up.
Let your message go.
They're tuned in, you know. Put your business in the spotlight on the Andrew Gosser Show.
Advertise with Andrew. Email info@wyab.com.
In farming, timing matters.
Plant too early and you're in trouble.
Wait too long, you miss the season.
Guys, it's the same thing with proposing. Now is the time.
It's Juniker Jewelry's annual bridal and wedding ring show, March 20th through April 4th. I'm John Ravenstein, third generation in 50 years here at Juniker's.
And I'm Corey Ravenstein, fourth generation, trying to convince the older generation that mules might be great, but air-conditioned tractors are the way forward.
Well, guys, here's a kick from this old mule. Bring your honey and and bring your money to Juniker's Bridal and Wedding Ring Show, featuring the largest selection of diamonds, engagement rings, and wedding bands in the state.
All at the best prices of the year. So the more you love, the more you save.
Juniker Jewelry's annual Bridal and Wedding Ring Show, March 20th through April 4th. Guys, your season is now.
Juniker Jewelry Company, Mississippi's direct diamond importer. 1485 Highland Colony Parkway, just south of 463 in Madison, and junikerjewelry.com.
Did you get us switched over to shelter insurance?
Actually, I found a deal online.
You did. Does your deal come with award-winning customer service?
Oh, I'm not sure.
Does the deal include a local agent?
Doesn't actually say.
Can we create a customized plan that fits our needs? Let's just call the local shelter agent.
For insurance that fits just right, find a shelter agent near you.
Located in Ridgeland and Flora, come see me, Jamie Creel, Shelter Insurance.
Here's what they're saying about Corcoran Door Company.
I'm going to yell out to one of your sponsors here, Corcoran Door. When the guy came out here, instead of just trying to throw a door up, he was looking at the way the house was facing. Man, with this double garage here on the south side, you might want to consider a insulated door. I came in earlier today about 2:30. The car thermometer said 99 degrees. The thermometer inside the garage was 82.
That's why they've been around 50 years.
Yeah.
Corkanddoor.com. CORKERN door.com.
And we are back here at the Andrew Gosser Show, always show prepping, always getting the work done. Where do we want to go from here? Where do we want to go from here? Yes. So, as we know, there is a lot of disinformation and back and forth going on about Iran, what's happening in Iran, what's happening in the Straits of Hormuz, and what our allies are doing about it. And the question of, is NATO really needed and wanted anymore? Yesterday, we talked about how Germany is going to actively ask the United States to leave Germany, to which I say, great, let's get out of there. That's one less base we have to take care of. Two, maybe. Yeah, you got an air base and you got an army base there. Get rid of it. Let the German people take care of themselves. They've proven in the past that they can build up an army. Poland's taking care of themselves all right. There's a lot of questioning going on right now when it comes to NATO, and I've got some opinions on it, but let's first hear from our great Secretary of State, Marco Rubio.
And I've been a big supporter of NATO. And one of the reasons why I've been a supporter of NATO is because I believe that these basing rights give us leverage and give us flexibility and operational capability all over the world. But if NATO is just about us defending Europe if they're attacked, but them denying us basing rights when we need them, that's not a very good arrangement. That's a hard one to stay engaged in and say this is good for the United States. So all of them's going to have to be reexamined. All of it's going to have to be reexamined.
And that has got Europe on fire. Because what they're starting to realize is not only does the United States of America pay for 95% of Europe's defense, Europe is only responsible for 5% of the NATO defense, but all the Americans who live there, those dollars are going to go away. All those jobs that are created through supporting those NATO bases are going to go away. Now, granted, the active duty military, Guard Reserve units over there that are they're not going to have opinion on it. They shouldn't have opinion on it. But when we're going to and look, the United States, we're not getting our oil from the Middle East. We do pay the price because of the wild oil fluctuation in market. You know, we do have some of the biggest LNG sources in the world right here in America. We're not tooled to create our own fertilizer anymore, thanks to presidents and administrations on both sides of the aisle. Why can't America produce its own fertilizer? Why do we have to go to the United Arab Emirates or Saudi Arabia to use their LNG to create fertilizer? Well, I know why. It's because, number one, we could bankroll and keep our own reserves for us when we really needed it. Got it. But number two, it's easier to monetize cheap labor and less humanitarian conditions over in the Middle East than the United States. Let's just go ahead and take advantage of it that way. I was just scrolling, and I hate it because Facebook always pops off and refreshes the story, even though you want to save a story. Yazoo City farmer complaining about the price of fertilizer. Yazoo City farmer complaining about fertilizer costs and how much it's going to cost to plant crops this year. I'm telling you, the food cost next year is going to be outrageous. It's going to be outrageous. And NATO being NATO, Europe being Europe, always slow to move, first to be invaded, first to fall, last to be rescued by the Americans. They're foot dragging. What does our Secretary of War say?
And as far as NATO is concerned, that's a decision that will be left to the president. But I'll just say a lot has been laid bare. A lot has been shown to the world about what our allies would be willing to do for the United States of America when we undertake an effort of this scope.
I was told it was too quiet, start it over. So I cranked the volume. If it's too low, I'll just paraphrase it. But here we go again. We're going to try this one again.
And as far as NATO is concerned, that's a decision that will be left to the president. But I'll just say a lot has been laid bare. A lot has been shown to the world about what our allies would be willing to do for the United States of America when we undertake an effort of this scope on behalf of the free world. These are missiles that don't even range the United States of America. They range allies and others. And yet when we ask for additional assistance or simple access basing overflight, we get questions or roadblocks or hesitations. And the president's pointing out, you don't have much of an alliance if you have countries that are not willing to stand with you when you need them. He's simply pointing that out. And ultimately, it'll be his decision of what that looks like after this is complete.
And how many of us have been in situations where you were rolling with your crew, you had your ride or die partner with you, you're expecting loyalty, and you don't get it. And you're just sitting there, and now you're in the soup, and you're thinking, hey, I got my loyal wingman with me. We're going to be all right. And then they straight up knife you. It's exactly what NATO's doing. And I get it. I mean, if having served over there, having gone on ports of call over there, have recently traveled there, their culture, when I went back a little while ago, their culture was nothing of what it was. Let's take a phone call here and see what happens. Go ahead, caller. You're on the air.
Yeah, in reference to the ongoing conflict between U.S., Israel, and Iran,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I'm watching a movie that I already saw before. I mean, I'm old enough to remember Iraq, coalition of the willing. I just felt like the president, he needed to build a coalition. You know, I don't think you called me after the fact. And number one, Iran did not attack the U.S.
Sure, they did. I would respectfully disagree with you, John. They didn't attack through the government of Iran. They used their proxies, Hezbollah. In fact, just today, they came out and said the attack on the Jewish synagogue in Michigan was Hezbollah.
Okay, I'm asking a question, though.
Oh.
Initially, at the start of this, who attacked who? I mean, I'm just asking because, you see, the president told us that, and I just like facts. If you tell us you obliterated their uranium, and they cannot make a nuclear weapon, you told us it was destroyed, it was buried beneath a mountain. So now you tell us, well, they were building ballistic missiles, and they were building one that could hit the United States. My thing is quit. Don't gaslight me. Don't scare me. Give me the facts. How many days away were they with this intercontinental ballistic missile? Don't gaslight us. And I think that's the problem we're having with this is it seems like it's a war of choice rather than, okay, we have the goods. we went. It's like when we went into Iraq and we said they had WMD. Okay, we get to Iraq, we didn't find firecrackers over there, and we lost a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, and we came away with nothing. We were in Afghanistan. The Taliban and everybody else is still in charge. Iraq, I don't know what's going on in Iraq, but at the end of the day, we didn't nation build. And I think NATO, if we had been attacked, I think NATO would have been there. Article 5 would have kicked in. I think, of course, they would have. But I think you got to consult your partners. You can't be the big I and the little you. And that's what I see here is you're calling them after the fact. And I just don't see it. I'm looking at this and I'm going, okay, what's the end game here? I mean, if you're going to, is it regime change? Is it degrade the military? Because we've done that. We've degraded their military capabilities. But regime change. Israel attacked, Israel fought with Hamas for 2 years. Did you get regime change in Gaza?
Can I just bring up a quick point? I'm not trying to interrupt you, John. I'm just saying Israel's been at war with Iran since Iran existed through the proxies of Hezbollah, Islamic Jihad, Hamas, and recently the Houthis. So I think that nothing is new under the sun. I agree with you. I agree with you that you've seen this before. And it's because no one's actually taken definitive action against Iran, who was the chief destabilizing player in that region. If you look, I believe it, and if I get these two flip-flopped, you can correct me, but I believe Iran is Shia and the rest of the Middle East is Sunni. Shia is a much more militant, aggressive type of Islam, where Sunni, they're still very aggressive, but they're not quite as militant as the Shia is. I believe I've got that right. And so when Iraq and Iran were going to war, it was the Iranians were doing it. And we have to be truthful here, John. If you don't think the United States wasn't having its fingers dipped in Iran before, or Iraq and Iran before the first Gulf War, we're kidding ourselves. We sold weapons to Iran before they did it, right? And then we sold weapons to Iraq. And then we said Iraq had weapons of mass destruction. We actually did. And I hear this, and hear me out. Tell me, do you believe that poison gas is a weapon of mass destruction? Because you remember the Iraqis were launching missiles and gassing the Kurds and killing.
Yeah, I do believe you. Okay, if you want to call it that, but the way they sold that, I'm just going to be honest with you. We got there and we did not find it. We did not find what we said they had.
We did find it though. It just wasn't in Iraq. It was in Syria. They moved all the and it's been so long, Brother John, because we forget that point in history. We just gloss over it so quick. We forget it. And this is the same type of problem that we have right here in America, right here in Mississippi. We forget our history. And so all of a sudden things that were facts are no longer facts, but they're opinions. And now those opinions become feelings. And now we're all discombobulated. And I'll give you the last word, brother, because I don't want to time bust you or nothing.
Did they use the weapons of mass destruction against our troops?
No, but they tried to.
Well, and that's all I ask is folks, give us the facts. You know, when we use that term, we use it so loosely. Imminent threat, ongoing threat. Folks, when I say imminent threat, I'm thinking you're a month away. For the last 20 years, I've heard Iran was working on a nuclear weapon and they were weeks away, months away. Just quit gaslighting us. Give us the facts, folks. That's all I ask. I'm behind. I'm always behind the president and their foreign policy, but I need you to be righteous and make sure what you're doing is righteous because there are men and women's lives on the line, folks. These are families and they have kids. And we just got to be righteous when we go and we attack another country. And we got to make sure we've exhausted diplomacy. Have we exhausted? We had a nuclear deal in place. You may not have liked it, but it was better than going to war. And Trump tore it up. President tore it up and said it was too lenient. Well, then they started enriching the uranium from 3% to 60%, trying to get to 90% to weapons grade because they said, okay, you tore it up. We're going back to being narcs. And so if you didn't like the JCOP plan, hey, it was something. So now we right back at, we just blew up all the stuff and we're going to do what? Negotiate with the same people. Have a good day, sir.
Hey, John, I appreciate it. There's a lot I got to respond to there. And I always appreciate John calling in because I feel like we have a dialogue, but there's a lot of stuff. But as we go to break, I just want the listening audience to one thing. When you make a deal with the devil, is that necessarily a good deal? You are listening to the Andrew Gosser Show. That was Brother John on 103.9 WYAB. We'll be right back. Yeah. Welcome back to the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB. Getting some texts, got some chats saying, Andy, you let John go on too much. I'm not worried about trying to convince you to my point of view. I'm trying to convince those in the middle who are thinking a little bit like John thinks, doesn't want to be gaslighted. Who doesn't want to be gaslighted? Brother John said he wanted righteous leadership. Do you think that the government in Iran's been righteous for the past 47 years, screaming death to America, funding billions and billions, hundreds of billions of dollars in proxy armies against the United States? The barracks in Lebanon being blown up, Marines getting killed, the barracks in Saudi Arabia getting blown up, the Twin Towers, all proxied, some by Saudi Arabia on 9/11, but a lot of it was Iran. Never forget that. And at some point after 47 years, you just got to say, I've had enough. And then he said, imminent threat. What's an imminent threat? That's tough. And I'm going to give you my military explanation of what I think an imminent threat is. Imminent threat is when your intelligence analysts at the CIA, who are supposed to be non-political, who are their past administrations, they're there for the long term, give you data, and you as the commander in chief say, this is what they gave me, this is what I've got to go with. People say that we had a deal with President Obama, giving Iran $6 billion in cash to say, oh, please don't do anything, and then continuing to destabilize Gaza, continuing to destabilize Lebanon, continuing to fund the Houthis can't remember. It's not Syria. Yemen. Continuing to support the terrorists in Yemen, the terrorists in Somalia. That's all going back to Islamic Republic of Iran, Brother John. We're sitting there giving them money, and they're just doling it out to our enemies to sit there, death by 1,000 bee stings. That's why I have conversations, and I personally, I know I'm weird. I must sound so weird to so many conservatives who want that fight, like Mark Levin will fight. You'll sit there and see other people fight, but I would say I kind of think I'm a little bit more of a Charlie Kirk type, where I'll sit there and I'll interject, and like I did, I interrupted him once or twice, not in a bad way. Just said, "Hey, you know about this, right? The weapons of mass destruction." People forget that Saddam Hussein used poison gas and killed thousands and thousands of Kurdish citizens, babies, children, indiscriminately. We said that's a bad idea. It goes to Syria, and then it all gets cleaned up in Syria. And guess what? And there's no weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. Brother John says he doesn't like gaslighting. I don't like the fact that the United States sat there and empowered some of its corporations to make money off both sides of the war, whether that be innocent Iraqis in the 80s and 90s or Iranians in the 2000s and 2010s and now. And by the way, Brother John, did you see how the Iranians are now having their youth starting to guard checkpoints because the grown adult men won't? Who else did that? The Nazis, the Hitler Youth. Same thing. And Iran promotes it. 11-year-old boy gets killed at a checkpoint. Ladies and gentlemen, history is repeating itself. John is right. We've seen this song and dance before. And history is repeating itself. Are we going to be sitting there paying attention to it and say, aha, and be aggressive and early course correct? Or are we going to do the NATO approach? Well, let's just wait and see what happens. We got to wait to be attacked first. How many of us who've been in a fight, who've been the aggressor, win the fight majority of the time? They have missiles that can't hit America yet. The technology to go from 4,000 to 8,000 miles is not as great as people think. And that's what really gets me about NATO. Iran had these missiles be able to go in land in cities in like London and Stuttgart, Paris, Madrid. Now, I'm not sure that the Islamic Republic of Iran would necessarily do that because they're already been invaded and taken over by radical Islam anyway. But that technology is there, and at some point, you just have enough. Last thing I'd say, Force Protection Charlie, attack is imminent. We go to that all the time and nothing happens. Not exercise either. It gets what really gets me about this entire war, if I'm being truthful with y'all, what really burns my biscuits, so to speak, can I say that? I think I can, is the complete lack of OPSEC. That people who should know better, journalists who should know better than to say, "Oh, we noticed that we've got 3 B-47s taking off out of this place and getting ready to go bomb Iran." You know, there was a hilarious cartoon back during first Gulf War. It had Saddam Hussein, and it had a picture of his Iraqi intelligence with the CNN logo on the TV screen. You might as well now be X. And I'm not trashing Elon and X because X is the true public square right now. But the apps that humans are making, the apps that AI are making to track ships, to track airplanes, to track other things, shipments, commodities. I mean, you're using GPS to track this stuff, and it is giving that information away open source freely. Anybody can use it. The good guys can use it. The bad guys can use it. Most of us won't use it because we don't care because we're too busy scrolling through TikTok AI girls and getting simped out that way. You are tuned into the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB. We'll be right back. And we are back, and oh, how the time flies. People are really upset with me talking about how I give John time to talk. But I want to hear what my opponent has to say. And I want to be able to debunk it to the max extent possible, which I feel I have. If I haven't, you'll have to give me a call tomorrow and tell me where I fell short. But I think that's part of the problem that we're having in America right now, is that we are so tribalized. You've got the MAGA pro-Israel, MAGA anti-Israel, MAGA pro-war, MAGA anti-war. You've got the left who hates everybody. They hate themselves. There's not one group of people that they don't hate unless you're gay, lesbian, bisexual, or a furry. Then they like you, but not really, because they know that in their hearts that they're all screwed up, but they got to like them because that's what my ideology says. And I'm in a place, ladies and gentlemen, where people say, you've got to unplug. I do unplug. I do touch grass. I'm getting new glasses. I'm going to be able to read more. And the best thing you can do is put down your anxiety device, because the Father Time's going to continue to roll on. The wheel's going to turn, whether you're plugged into it or not. And people are just so angry. And you've got more people who are ticked off about an Apache, age 64 Apache doing a flyby of Kid Rock than they are of USAID funneling money to Hamas, Hezbollah, ISIS, and other terrorist organizations. USAID. In the first person to break that was Elon and Doge. And now the man who is 49 and 1 is bringing new evidence to the table. And we'll talk about it tomorrow. Hopefully there's some good stuff to talk about. It is the Holy Week. Hope you're all doing something special. Sweet Bee, the Sweet Toots, and I, we're all getting ready for Seder dinner tomorrow night. We're doing a Christian representation of that. It's funny to me because people are like, Andy, your faith. And I'm like, yeah, and you're going to spend more time worshiping a bunny that poops chocolate eggs. We have completely misconstrued our whole culture and society. And I just try to take 2 hours out of your day to entertain you a little bit, to educate and inform. Try to build the bench, as it were. Hopefully a few of you run for local office. Get yourself squared away. Get a good campaign going. I'd love to help out. Speaking of that, tomorrow is Grip and Grin, ladies and gentlemen. Tomorrow is Grip and Grin. And guess who the guest speaker will be? It will be Mississippi's very own Lieutenant Governor, Mr. Delbert Hosemann. You ever wanted to ask Mr. Hosemann a question? Tomorrow would be the day. It's going to be at Mama Hamill's. I always try to plug local events like that. There's always good stuff going on. The Ice Cream Social for Children's Hospital. Got to plug it. Got to do that. Ladies and gentlemen, it is so much easier to be negative and angry and stew in your own juices than it is to look for the good things, the positive things. I'm at the point to where I can sit there and be as negative as all of you, or I can point out some of the good things that are happening too. And we'll try to find some. Sometimes it's difficult. But until then, don't fall for the propaganda on the left. Don't believe all the Twitter X posts getting sent to you. Just go out there and be blessed. Yes and amen.